Hello, and welcome to the first ever Gaming Matters Academy. My name is Jasper Donat. I'm the CEO of Branded. We produce all of the Matters series of events. Today I'm wearing my Face Clan t-shirt, so I am, you can't see the back, J Doe. There you go. I'm a gamer, see? Anyway, yes, we produce all sorts of wonderful events under the Matters brand. Gaming Matters, Music Matters, Sports Matters, Marketing Matters. And for those of you who don't know this, Gaming Matters has been around since around 2012. And outside of Japan is the longest running gaming conference in Asia. Now, the Tokyo Game Show does win the race on that one, but otherwise we're pretty proud to be where we are. In 2020, we went virtual, as did the rest of the world. We were hybrid last year in real life in Singapore. We had over 30,000 viewers taking part in real life and online. I am delighted to announce, there we go, that All That Matters will be back in Singapore live during the Singapore Grand Prix week, the F1 Grand Prix, 26th to 28th of September. So please look out for more information about that as it is released. But we are very, very excited to see everyone back. Music, sport, gaming, digital, marketing, all under one roof. We're going to have the crypto and NFT worlds with us as well under the theme of All That Matters. Get it? Anyway, back to gaming. And in the time since our first event in 2012, the gaming industry has exploded. But there is still very little information out there about about the industry itself and how it works, who's who in the industry and how to succeed. So step forward the Gaming Matters Academy. It's a series of virtual events designed to help build a foundation for anyone interested in the gaming business to learn and upskill through the mentorship and knowledge sharing of global industry icons who also happen to be our friends. It's the business of gaming, and it's taught here by the Gaming Business. The Academy is the third in our Learning Matters series and follows hot on the heels of our Music and Sports Matters Academies, which have collectively recorded over hundreds of thousands of views to date. Throughout the gaming series, we will be covering event production, how to build a community and fan base, understanding data. I'm afraid to say it really does matter. How to work with brands and sponsors, legal matters, health matters. We want to talk about players as athletes, gamers as athletes, and we'll be talking about the metaverse as well. Back to today. We're going to start right from the beginning, as I said, to try and understand who's who, what's what, and where's where in the gaming and esports industry, and we're doing it across two sessions. We have this one this morning, and then we're going live again at 4 o'clock this afternoon. The content is virtual, the content is live, the content is fireside. So we want it to be interactive. So please, if you're watching, do get your questions in. If you want to speak to any of our speakers, if you just put them into the chat, we'll get them sent to us, and I can then ask the speakers, who are you? Where are you? Let us know, and we'll have a chat. There is also, after this session, a small private Meet the Speakers session, which you can join. You just go back into the website and there it is, and click through into the link. So if you want to ask any questions to any of the speakers, you can join that as well. In a minute, I'm going to introduce you to our speakers, but for now, just to start with, you'll notice that the Academy, the Gaming Matters Academy, is free to attend, and that is 100% thanks to our wonderful sponsors and partners, including Twitch, Singtel, and the Global Esports Federation. So thank you from me and from everyone to all of you for making that possible. And finally, thank you for joining us in the World Wide Web of Intellect, of the Interland. Please enjoy, please do learn, but don't forget to get questions in and make it as interactive as possible. On with the show. And it's time to level up in the Gaming Matters Academy. Let's see all of our speakers in a moment. We're going to chat with Tammy from the Global Esports Federation. We're going to chat with Nick from ESL, the world's largest producer of live esports events. But first, we're going to say a wonderful hello to Sunita Kaur from Twitch, an all-round awesome human. And don't forget, get your questions in. So, Sunita, let's start with you, please.
Hello.
I'm going to start with, who are you? Where are you? What's your background? And what's your role at Twitch?
All right. Well, it's absolutely lovely to be here. I'm excited about the next hour or so. So hello, everyone. I am Sunita Kaur. I'm the Senior Vice President for Twitch, based right here in Singapore.
And thank you so much for joining, and thank you to Twitch for making this possible. Now, we've known you for quite a while, and your background has been a lot of leaps of faith, I think, where you've gone from social media to you work for Spotify, your music streaming, and then Twitch. What drove you to gaming?
Gosh, I think that my entire career, if anything, has been really deliberate. And so, taking myself back to 1996 when I first started my career, it's, the first 10 years was in print. I mean, good grief, in 1999, I survived the first dot-com bubble that burst. But in 2005, I think is when I really started to, really kind of lean into the whole digital world. And that's when, the rocket ship, if anything, started, right? Moving from Microsoft into Facebook, very nascent, where social media was just beginning back in 2010. In 2013, joining Spotify, when there was no Spotify at all in the region, and there was just two of us trying to figure this out. And then in 2019, when I left Spotify, I really kind of wanted to lift my head and look around to see what else is sort of next and ripe for disruption. And I've always been fascinated with esports and gaming and live streaming. And lo and behold, Twitch was looking for someone for APAC, and here I am today.
Fantastic. And I mean, you started just before the pandemic, right? I mean, how have you and how has Twitch seen its business change during the pandemic, and now as we seem to be coming out?
Gosh, what a journey, I think, for all of us. I started literally, I think, 3 weeks before we went into a global shutdown. So for all of us across Twitch and APAC, I mean, we've grown so much. So many of us have never met each other in person. And I think if anything, we have learned so much during the pandemic. At the beginning, it was very much a case of brace yourself. We weren't quite sure what to look for, what to sort of focus on. But I think the one thing that we did learn very quickly was, with everybody staying at home, there was still a huge need to stay in touch. And so, being entertained was one thing, but to still be parts of a community was a huge learning for us. And we were pretty humble about the small role that we got to play in that whole journey. And fast forward 2 years, we've just seen so much growth, in the whole industry. We saw, viewership grow 40% year over year. But I think the one most interesting data point that we pulled is the number of creators that have joined the platform in the last 2 years has almost tripled. So we're seeing more and more people wanting to become creators or streamers, which is really exciting.
So you talk about gamers and streamers. Why are streamers important to gaming? And what's the difference between a game? Okay, what's the difference between a gamer and a streamer, and why are streamers important?
Well, I mean, if anything, we should probably call, or the collective word should be creators, which is how we view all of our streamers, because you can have creators who focus on gaming, focus on music, focus on sport, focus on cooking, or chatting. It's the whole genres have just blown up, and they are incredibly important to us. They are the center of everything we do. With viewers growing, people want more different types of entertainment, and all of our creators are supplying it. And I think also it was interesting to see the whole sort of gaming culture grow. The number of people that identify themselves as gamers in APAC is huge. It's like over 1.4 billion people consider themselves gamers. So it's this whole new exciting world that's really just beginning.
And then it's not just people playing Counter-Strike or World of Warcraft. I mean, there's Candy Crush, and there's casual games as well. So and that's something that we'll touch on in another session. And let's just talk about, but before we we meet Tammy and Nick, but let's just talk a little bit about, we said that things seem to, borders starting to open, things are starting to hopefully we're saying goodbye to the last of the pandemic, but what does 2022 look like for Twitch and your creator communities?
Oh, so much. So I think, when we think about 2022, and again, fingers crossed, hopefully borders start to lift, we can start to travel, because we miss spending time in person with our creators. And this has already been announced, like we're bringing back TwitchCon. We're doing Europe in July and the US in October. We're going to try and start to do more sort of in-person events across the region as well. But we are still, fundamentally focused on the platform and being able to equip all of our creators with all of the tools that they want. So it's, people create content and are looking to monetize their channels. So everything around commerce and advertising has seen tremendous growth. In fact, again, with more creators, we've also seen the fact that the number of streamers who have made money streaming on Twitch has doubled from an all-time high back in 2019. So that's really great news. The fact that, people are running their own channels, creating this amazing content, and being, recognized for it in all of those good ways. And then we just continue to build out these tools.
We're going to be drilling down into the content subject. It has its own module in 2 modules time, Content Matters, where we will be helping people understand how to grow their communities and how to make money out of doing this. And I will be writing lots of notes in the background because I obviously like it. Okay, so I was going to say the final question is, how do I get a job at Twitch? But that's too cheeky. Sunita, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we're going to see you in a minute when the group comes back together. So please, everyone, do get your questions in for the group. And now we are going to we're going to say hello to Tammy. Hey, Tammy, how are you?
Hi.
Now, Tammy, you wear many hats. You're here representing the Global Esports Federation, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do for a living, Tammy?
So my name's Tammy. Some of you might have heard of me as Furry Fish, which is my gaming handle. Before I started working in the gaming industry, I was a gamer, and I ran a team called Team Asterisk, which supported a few competing rosters, which were all women in various titles. And I also put together a league called the Female Esports League, which is just abbreviated to FSL for women, particularly in Southeast Asia. So it was at one of the events that I was, I think, shoutcasting at, that I got my first step into the door in the gaming industry. I applied for a job at Razer because they had this like big poster and banner up saying they were hiring. And I think I gained a really big amount of experience there. And I discovered that events was something that I enjoyed particularly. And from then on, I kind of moved into doing tournaments and events. So I'm always grateful for being allowed to explore and figure out what I wanted to do. Since Razer, I've done a lot of different events. I've also worked at Twitch. Right now, I run FSL full-time, but I also work for the Global Esports Federation. At the GEF, I am the Gaming Esports Operations Head, and we organize a few different tiers of tournaments. So my role is to mostly plan these out come up with the format of the tournament, write the rule books, registration process, manage the registrants and things like that. Sometimes I actually do actual execution too, mostly to fill in the gaps, but mostly it's just pre-event work and planning, a lot of planning.
And you ran the Global Esports Games last year, at the end of
Yes.
last year. Now I know that it was an extremely challenging project because you had nothing to do with the games, but everything to do with just the environment we were in, with ever-changing policies, ever-changing scenario, what rules and regulations outside of the event, and with the governments trying to open up. What were the biggest challenges to the event last year that you found?
So from my point of view, there were a lot of member federations who wanted to send their national teams, but because of all the travel restrictions, it was very painful to see that their national teams couldn't attend, and there was a lot of disappointment all over. And we tried to soften that by holding as much as we could online. Thanks to Twitch, of course, we managed to broadcast our tournaments for everyone to access and watch. And I think that helped a little bit, but I think that was the greatest difficulty. Secondly, I think because of all the restrictions, we mostly were able to utilize local talent as well. I think some of the viewers would have liked to see internationally, renowned shoutcasters, for example, or talents and guests come in, but that was also very difficult for us to do.
But it was a very successful event. I mean, considering
Yes.
the challenges you had to get around. I mean, you produced a global event in the middle of a pandemic. What advice would you give to anyone? I mean, wearing these multiple hats that you wear, but anyone wanting to get into the gaming industry, either as if it's a gamer wanting to get a professional career in the industry itself, not as a gamer, or anyone wanting to get in the events side of things, what advice would you give them?
I'd advise them to just be able to try and explore and not to close their minds or focus strictly on one thing, because gaming is a really big community, it's a really big industry, and the more experience you get in every aspect of it, the better it will help you in your job. And you will also gain respect from the gamers themselves when you show that you are actually interested in their world and you want to know more, and you're not just discounting them or trying to make a quick buck.
So really understand the gamers and how you can help their careers, right?
Yeah, that too, of course.
Fantastic. Well, Tammy, we're gonna see you again in a minute. Thank you so much for joining us. So Sunita and Tammy are going to come back in a while, but first we're going to meet Nick Vanzetti. Nick, who now you are from ESL, the largest producer of esports events in the world. Pretty cool. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who are you? Where are you? And what do you do for ESL? Tell us more about ESL.
Sure. So I'm an Aussie living in Singapore since 2018 now. I actually built my own esports business very similar to ESL in Australia going back 10, 12 years ago now, and ESL bought into my business. And my responsibility is basically growing the ESL brand here in Asia and right across the Asia Pacific region. So we cover Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia and ANZ. And, we've been on this, crazy growth journey here in Singapore particularly, and the rest of Southeast Asia. So when I first started, there were only 5 ESL employees here. Now we're at about 100 people. And our focus is really about growing local products. So making sure that we're talking to each of the individual country markets as well as regional and global, because we're very well known for those big stadium events for Counter-Strike and Dota 2 around the world. But there's a lot that we can touch on already in each of those individual countries here as well.
So go a little bit more. So for those who are uninitiated, what events were you producing before the pandemic? But then during the pandemic, how did ESL pivot into, assuming you went digital?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common conception that ESL is just events, but at the core of what we do is we run tournaments. We're all about the sport. And everyone who's a gamer would know you can compete from your own house anywhere. So that's continued as normal. So we've never stopped running those online tournaments, local events. For me particularly, we've been very involved in Intel Extreme Masters came to Sydney. We have a big event in Melbourne. And in more recent years in Asia, we've run ESL 1 Dota events in Kuala Lumpur or in Genting. In Malaysia, we've done others in the past in Manila, etc. But more recently, I think we've been doing a lot more in the mobile space because it's obviously more relevant here to Southeast Asia. So a big focus for us has been about creating and launching the ESL mobile brand. And recently we're rebranding that due to a great partnership with Snapdragon, the Qualcomm. There's a multi-year deal to grow our mobile ecosystem around the world together with Snapdragon.
And how does ESL work with teams and players?
Well, of course, we can't run tournaments without them. So they're part and parcel of everything we do. We have to work together with all the team owners and players and try and make sure we engage the communities with tournaments that they want to play in and that they're run to, a really high standard. So we have a very large department just dedicated to tournament administration right here in Asia and all across the world. So yeah, they're part of everything we do.
And a lot of conversation around live events and the introduction of this word hybrid into our lives. So, and for anyone who doesn't know that's the idea of a live event and a digital and something digital happening at the same time. Now, in conference world, that's very different to something like esports, where was esports hybrid already?
Yeah, exactly. And apologies, I kind of asked this earlier, so I'll touch on it again. Or I didn't touch on it. Sorry. Ultimately, COVID, yes, it has affected us. We can't run those, let's say, large scale events or not as often. We're starting to ease back into them now. There's a very optimistic view to filling arenas again. But we have been hybrid, as you say, for a long time because ultimately, the core of the tournament is online and ESL is ultimately a content producer. So we run the tournament, we create stories, we make sure we have compelling broadcasts that go out right across the world on platforms like Twitch and make sure that we can continue to engage the audience and fans. And that's the core of what we do. So in the pandemic, the hybrid events that we've kind of been doing, we had the option and we were doing them in the past. So rather than booking a big arena and filling it with 5,000 people, we have still been getting a lot of the core elements of that tournament and that live event together. So for competitive integrity reasons, obviously a more compelling broadcast, we have the players on site in one location. We have all of the tournament infrastructure. We build a set, we build a nice studio, and then we run the tournament live in a live event just without a physical audience. But we can still create great broadcasts and memories and experiences beyond that. That said, Jasper, still looking forward to seeing a big crowd in an arena again because nothing beats the roar of that crowd and it's just a different feeling.
It's just over your right shoulder there as well. So look, Nick, what we will be touching on for the Gaming Masters Academy. Actually, I think the next module is all around live experiences and drilling down into live productions and stadium management, security, production, broadcast, distribution, all that kind of good stuff. So we will be doing a lot more on the live experience. So thank you so much for joining us. And with that, we're going to bring all three of you back. So we're going to see Sunita and Tammy and Nick all together by the... Yes! I love it when that works. We have our first question from the World Wide Web. Naz from Media Pro. I think Nick, I'm going to ask this to you first. Looking at both esports gaming production and rights distribution, the question is how or if they see any growth potential for games that are not traditionally esports, like single player games. Good question, Nick.
Yeah. So, as in single player games growth potential for audiences and viewership, or maybe just clarify
Growth
that one?
potential for games that are not. I think in general.
Yeah, sure. I mean, ultimately, whether the game is competitive or an esport or not, that's kind of like the playground or the sandbox that we really specialize in. So at the core of what we're doing is very driven around the sport. But we've already, you only need to look at Twitch and influencers and all the amount of huge content that's being churned out these days. A lot of it's got absolutely nothing to do with esports. So there's already been so much growth in that realm of following people playing various different other games. Whether or not we're starting to see a little bit more experimentation where there might be competitive elements or a tournament-like aspect to some of those single-player games. But that kind of crosses over into the esports realm. But certainly, it's already been growing massively.
And Tammy, as the gamer and the association, but also as a league owner, it's a really impressive resume, I will say. What do you see that is there a big growth on single player games versus team sports?
So I think that's always the appeal of single player games if you're talking about from a consumer's standpoint, because there's no pressure with having to deal with teammates or setting merging schedules so that everyone can achieve goals in game together. It's free and easy. It's something that you can do at your own time, and I don't think that segment or that genre is ever going to die. So from a consumer standpoint, this is only going to grow, especially when you see everyone, because of the pandemic, there's more interest in gaming. So not everyone is going to be playing an esports title. A lot of people will gravitate towards all these single player games, and they just want to have fun and enjoy it rather than compete and stress themselves out. So that's my point of view from a gamer standpoint.
Cool. So we now we've got to know the three of you and what you do and who you work with and for and stuff. Let's go back to the heart of the academy, is helping people understand how to get a career in gaming, how to succeed in gaming, the various parts of gaming. So going back to yourselves, Sunita, let's start with you. What's the most exciting thing about your job right now?
Oh gosh, God, where do I start? I think it's the fact that we're coming out of a pandemic, and the world of gaming is not, or the world of live streaming and all of that good stuff is not slowing down. In fact, it's just growing. So for a lot of us at Twitch, it's really seeing that that growth just continue and realizing that, oh my goodness, there is so much more that we can continue to do. So every day is new, whether we're discovering a new genre that's growing or a new game that's going to be launched, or last but definitely not least, growing our teams to be able to support our creators and our viewers, and that's definitely exciting.
Tammy.
So I think what's really exciting for me is seeing nationality-based tournaments, because I think right now there's a huge focus on just the top tier of esports, like the 0.01% who are actually professional gamers and top tier play. So at the Global Esports Federation, we are organizing a lot of nationality-based tournaments to reach out to the different communities, and it's very exciting to see people compete. Well, mainly for national pride, and carrying the expectations of all their friends and family from back home.
Nick, what's exciting about your job right now?
For us, it's probably just because it's so fresh off the press. The Snapdragon Pro Series, which is our mobile product. We've spent so much time in the background trying to prepare, a program that really matters and makes a difference across the region. So yeah, for us, continuing to build that out is really exciting.
Fantastic. Okay, so for people that want a career in gaming, what do we think are the largest challenges to building a successful career, getting into and building that career? Sunita.
Well, I think from a service point of view, when we have new creators joining the platform, we always encourage everybody to literally just go to our website and sign up for the various number of camps and tutorials that we have just to get your feet wet. And to Tammy's point earlier, it's like, don't be afraid to just try different things and find your groove. Sometimes it's something that you didn't think that would work well for you, and we've seen that happen over and over again. So yeah, definitely be open to learning, especially in the beginning.
Nick, within ESL, what do you think are the largest challenges and how are people getting over it?
In terms of getting into the industry, or
getting in and succeeding?
Yeah, I think it can be about getting noticed. I mean, right now we're growing so fast, we need people. So if you want a job at ESL, please apply. Just a little plug there, because if anything, like, we have a lot of jobs going. I don't think there's a shortage of opportunities right now. There's so much growth in the space. It's more about getting the skills required. So, a lot of people approach us and think, okay, well, look, I was a great player back in the day on a certain esport, but life skills and other work experience are still really important part of trying to get into the industry. So my advice is always just to try and take whatever opportunity you can and get some credentials on your list there. That might mean through volunteering or giving some kind of something back to the community in another way. But yeah, plenty you can do.
And Tammy, as the entrepreneur and the gamer.
So I think as a professional, from a professional gamer standpoint, I'm not saying I was one, but I think you have to know whether you can really become one, whether your standards match up to a professional level tier. And I think being honest with yourself in that aspect is probably the biggest challenge. So it's something that you will probably have to learn over time and listen to the people around you. And with respect to getting involved in the gaming industry, I think still social perceptions and family pressures are a pretty big thing, because I think gaming is still somewhat seen as not a very legit job to have.
So you're saying that people don't think, if someone goes to their parents and says, I want to get into the gaming industry, they'll say, oh,
you just want to play games, don't you? So I think up to today, my parents still don't really understand what it is exactly that I do. I think they still think that I play games till like 7 a.m. and sleep all day till 6 p.m. And it's tough, but as long as you understand what you are doing and why you're doing it, I think you should follow it.
And that's wonderful advice. And look, it's not the only industry that's facing this issue. I mean, interesting enough, and this isn't a plug, but our Sports Managers Academy and Music Managers Academy have the same challenges. If someone goes to their parents and says they want to work in the music industry or the sports industry, it's a tough conversation, because we need these industries to get more credibility. So Tammy, I mean, if there's any advice you can give or any thoughts you can give on how gaming is presented as a credible career, not just for gamers but for people working in the industry as well. Nick, kind of throwing the question to you last, but coming from Australia, being in Asia, do you see the same issues with people? You say you're looking for roles at the moment. Is there a challenge with people and seeing it as a credible industry?
Yeah, I definitely notice it a lot more here in Asia. Countries like Singapore, Japan, even though Japan's home to gaming, it's kind of seen as a kids thing. In Australia, it's a bit different. Australia is such a huge sport-loving country. It's more kind of like, there's a lot of great weather. It's sunny all the time. It's like, oh, what are you doing indoors playing games? So it's more like a cultural pressure that you're still a little bit nerdy, less so than, it being a legitimate opportunity or a familial pressure from your parents. So definitely noticed that. It's certainly a thing. I think we've made leaps and bounds in the last 5 to 10 years on that topic, though, just because we're getting much more, mainstream press and acceptance. People are coming around. At least people understand what esports is. I no longer have to explain that anymore. Whereas that's all I was doing 10 years ago.
There's another question, and it's Naz from Media Pro is back. Maybe we'll get Naz to moderate one of these sessions. So, and Nick, I think this is going to be for you again, just to start with, and then see if there's any other thoughts. Do we think that video games, esports, gaming, will ever get any coverage on mainstream linear television, such as ESPN, beIN, and what have you? Can you see that happening?
Well, yeah, I certainly do. It's already kind of happening, but it's an interesting question because, I think part of the question was about whether it'll be the same size as, say, like traditional football or sport on those linear channels. What's interesting about that question is that mainstream is changing. The word mainstream is changing, right? So it's not just all about linear takers anymore. They're obviously massive, and they certainly have their place. But mainstream is becoming more of those digital platforms first, like Twitch. So we kind of see the fact that this is our home right now, is digital first, because that's where our audience is. And certainly I think as traditional media changes in the next decade, we're going to see much more crossover there. And, one of ESL's global visions from our founder, CEO, Ralph Reichert, is to actually make esports the biggest sport in the world. So it's certainly our long-term objective to get to that point where those linear takers and those mainstream media channels will certainly be covering a lot more esports.
Tammy, is it important, or when you have amazing platforms like Twitch, the home of gaming, is it important to have linear or more traditional media support?
So this has actually been a question that I've been considering because FSL has been approached to put some of their content on, normal TV, I would call it. And I've been weighing the pros and cons of that because it doesn't really reach out to your target market. I would still say that I would pick Twitch for that or other, online platforms. Normal TV is kind of like something you put on when, you just want some noise in the background. And I find a little archaic because you cannot control what you want to watch anytime you want to. And I think people are mostly moving towards things that are on demand rather than, a set program that's playing. But I do still think that it does have a place in media because it's already so widespread and it's reached probably, I wouldn't know the percentage, but maybe 80% of the people. So it's still there and it's not going away, and it's an additional outlet for content to go on. So it's always good to have that.
Thank you. So Sunita, rather than ask you that question, because it's probably I was going to ask you another question, but
I actually think it's such an interesting question in terms of kind of thought starters and where the industry is headed. And I think it's, if you take a step back, and what Nick said about what is mainstream now is changing is so true, because what we're seeing from a Twitch perspective, and I think this recent example is a great one, is what like Riot did with Arcane. So you've got a TV series, if anything, on Netflix, and like Riot, Twitch, and Netflix all came together for that. And it's an amazing opportunity to really up what esports is, because they were all based on really famous characters. And then, like, from my perspective, it was interesting having conversations with friends of mine, and like, Jasper, I'm going to take you down with me, in our age bracket, who had watched Arcane, who had so many questions about the world of gaming and esports. So I just think it's a great opportunity to come together and educate.
Hey, I still think Pong is cool. So
You would, yeah.
So a question from Mabel from Tubular Labs. Now, Tubular are a fabulous research agency platform working with a lot of creators all over the world. And she's asked, working with social video content, and following up on Nas' question, we find that many creators are definitely digital first. So I'm going to, Sunita, I'm going to stay with you on this. What are the long-term trends that you see when it comes to content creation on social video platforms like Twitch? There's another one mentioned there as well, but I won't say it.
Oh, it's fine. We're all in it together. Well, I think, in terms of just longer term, there's so many different aspects of that. When you think about the more technical side of it, with data getting cheaper, technology getting better, that all plays a huge part in sort of the growth of the world of streaming. And we definitely have one eye on that. And then the other eye is just on, it's on tools and creativity and genres. Like we've seen, I sort of said before, we've learned so much in the past couple of years with the pandemic, where for the longest time, our roots were in esports and gaming, but all of a sudden, like, music exploded, right? Everything from us putting together, Stream Aid to raise money, to Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park involving everyone on how he puts an album together, to Brox, who was a huge World of Warcraft gamer, just breaking Twitch as a woodcarver, to otters, to cooking, to you name it. There was just so much. And I think that's going to be really the future. It's the future of entertainment. And I think the whole genre of entertainment is going to grow on Twitch, which is pretty exciting.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're down to our final question now. Otherwise, we're going to go over time, and production team are going to start shouting at me. What's up next for you all? Let's start with you, Nick. You can't mention the Snapdragon Pro Series again.
Okay.
What's up next? What's exciting? What's up next for ESL and what's going on in the world?
Yeah, no, I will touch on this, not in so much detail, but like it is a big thing for us. We're obviously going through a merger with Faceit, which is a really big shift for us. Last year already, or might have been 2 years ago, we kind of merged with DreamHack. We had the same parent company anyway, so we're already sister company. So there's a lot for us to kind of do in terms of combining the resources of both companies. Ultimately, ESL, with our track record of the big events, broadcasting, commercializing premium esports ecosystems, with Faceit, we kind of have now the capabilities of a best-in-class digital platform for gamers, so we can grow the industry rather than dividing it together. So that's really exciting, and there's a lot to do there.
And you're looking for lots of new people.
Exactly.
Tammy, what's really exciting for Global Esports Federation? What's really exciting for Tammy?
So I think what's coming up for us that's really exciting and I think has hit the news pretty recently is the Commonwealth Esports Championships, which will be happening in Birmingham, August 6th to 7th. So I think this is going to be, so this is really exciting because it's a big thing when, Commonwealth Esports, Commonwealth Federation, decides to incorporate esports into, its program at Birmingham. And I think there have been some mixed reviews, but overall it's been very, very positive. And moving forward, we will be going through the national selections, followed by regional selections before we get into the event proper.
Fantastic. No, we have been watching that news as it unfolds, and we featured quite a few Global Esports Federation speakers in previous times who are involved in that event as well. So good luck on that. Sunita, final word. What's up next for Twitch, for you and for Twitch?
Well, I think me and Twitch are one in my mind. But for us, it's just that, it's a new year. In fact, it's not really a new year. It's already April next week. I don't know how that happened. But it's the growth. It's definitely the growth. And, as we think about, we look at Japan, we look at Korea, which are, some of the biggest markets for Twitch, not just in APAC, but globally. We've seen tremendous growth in Taiwan, in Australia, in Southeast Asia. But the one country that's really on our minds right now, because we posted our very first job for it yesterday, is India. So we're going to be, a lot of our focus will be on India this year.
Fantastic. Well, you heard that here. Maybe not first, but almost first. Twitch is coming to India, right?
Yeah.
So look, thank you so much for that. What a wonderful way to end this conversation. I mean, if there's any question about credibility of the industry for the older generation, you're talking about growth. We're talking about community engagement. We're talking about over 1 billion gamers in Asia, and it's not just playing Counter-Strike and League of Legends. We talked about the streaming just growing and growing. We talked about every day is a new day. I mean, how many people in their careers can say that every day is a new day? We talked about keep it for people wanting to succeed or get into it. Keep on trying new things. Find your groove. Get noticed. Get a job, and you can get a job at ESL or at Twitch right now because they're looking for people. The mainstream is changing. We talked about, but we talked about this massive growth that's going in the industry. So Sunita, Tammy, Nick, thank you so much for your time today. To everyone who's been sending in your questions, thank you for that. We are going to get to meet the audience, the speakers backstage. If you go back into the website, click on the link, you can come and meet the speakers, have a chat, ask them, tell them who you are, offer them your services if you're looking for a job. But that's awesome. And then later today, 4 o'clock this afternoon, we will be meeting Dentsu, one of the biggest advertising agencies in the world. We will be meeting Activision Blizzard. We're one of the biggest gaming publishers in the world, and we will be meeting Epic, the publishers of Fortnite and the Unreal Engine, what have you. So there'll be a great chat this afternoon. So thank you again for joining today. We will see you at the next Gaming Matters Academy.